Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Park Board meeting for Wednesday, March 2nd. If you could please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Shannon, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Latchford?
Here.
Mr. Freeze?
Here.
Mr. Lang?
Here.
Mrs. Sperling?
Here.
The minutes from our previous meeting on February 16th were prepared and sent to us in advance of tonight's meeting. So unless there are any changes or edits or corrections, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll move that we accept the minutes as printed from our last meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries.
All right, we have project updates next. And the first is a presentation of the Park Department's master plan.
Okay, thank you. As the board knows, we've been working on our 5-year master plan for the DNR for approximately a year. We did turn in our first draft on December 16th of 2021. It was reviewed by the DNR and their comments were received by us on December 29th. The recommendations for additions or corrections and some deletions to our plan were included in your packet. I did not print out the entire 323 pages of the corrections. It is still online for you to look up, but I did include the pages where the changes occurred. So very quickly, there was a couple of recommendations to just move some information to a different section of the plan, remove our outdated BioBlitz information. That was done about 12 years ago, so it was kind of outdated, so I took that out. Information regarding the city's sidewalk system and how it integrates into our trail system. I did do a study about that, and it was actually very interesting. I found it interesting to see the areas that we have sidewalk deficits and how our trail master plan will tie into that in the future. So that was added to the plan. I added some tourism information to the social and economic section, added a quality of place paragraph. There were a lot of questions from the DNR regarding our demographics, ages of children increasing, ownership of homes, home values, on and on and on. After a month of doing a lot of research into these, it was determined that the 2020 census data is incorrect. The state DNR agrees with that, and they pointed us in another direction for a different data set, which we used, and that data set seems to match the other trends in Indiana. I think the biggest one was home values. You know, they showed, I think it was a 10% drop in home values when it's actually almost a 14% increase. And they asked to add the locations of all the stakeholder meetings, which I did. Just as a reminder to the board, the following are the required elements of every plan that's submitted to them. Introduction, a definition of our planning area, our goals, the description of our board and our department, our natural features and landscape, man-made historical and cultural assets, social and economic factors, and it says 2020 census up there. It was actually a 2019 Stats Indiana data. Accessibility and universal design, our public participation process, how we came up with our needs analysis and our priorities and our action schedule. I'm not going to read through all of this, but we did conduct 24 stakeholder meetings between August and November of 2021. We received a total of 626 surveys, 84 paper, 542 were online, and we held 4 public input sessions at public board meetings. We conducted a needs analysis by tallying all the results from our surveys, our public comment, stakeholder interviews, reviews and comments from the park board and our park staff. Those were all prioritized and then added to the action plan And then we identified funding strategies to complete the action plan. What came out of our needs analysis is facilities were top on the list. We really need new ADA and all-inclusive playgrounds. Restrooms were high on the list. Public safety, including lighting. Pickleball had a lot of interest. Everyone wants the splash park open again this year. We're working on that with the mayor right now. Interest in a ice and roller rink, a community center. Everyone wants more of the public access beach mats. Those are extremely popular. And a lot of comments as to don't build anything new, maintain what we already have. Developing new programming was high on the list. This again, I feel like I say it over and over again, is we really need to reinstate a full-time recreation director position if we're going to increase our recreational programming. Fitness was very high on the list. We are looking at an outdoor gym concept in Fetters Alley. We've got a stakeholder group working on that now. Communication, our image was poor from most of the stakeholders and survey respondents. We don't have a good community image. We don't get information out there timely. Again, this could go back to something that a rec director could take care of. Right now, we just don't have the staff or the expertise to do, or budget to do proper marketing. But that's something that we're definitely looking at internally. What can we do now to bridge that gap? Again, staff, recreation director is very important. Everyone's still interested in any type of trails and access, fitness trails, nature trails, non-motorized trails. That's a statewide trend. The issues that received the highest priority got placed into our 5-year rolling action plan for implementation. We identified quite a few funding sources: city funding, foundations, community block grants, and other grants. Historical Society, LaPorte County Healthcare Foundation, I think that's going to be big. We're starting to work with them now. I was actually at their facility today. They have some interest in funding some amenities in Michigan City. They've been doing a lot for LaPorte City and LaPorte County. And we're in the county, so I think it's Michigan City's turn to present a good project to get some funding from them. Then there's some smaller grant opportunities. It's important to note that during our last master plan, we had just over $21 million in projects. Out of those, $9 million were able to be funded. So that left $12 million in projects in that 5 years that rolled into this master plan. That's a lot. But it is important to note that $5,600,000 of that $9 million was just the trail alone. So that was a big project. So rolling all that into our 2022-2026 capital request action plan, we're looking at just over $34 million of projects over the 5 years. Again, this includes trails, and that's a big part of it. Later on your agenda, there is a resolution for this board to adopt this plan that would allow me to submit it tomorrow. It's not due until April 15th. However, I'd like to get it submitted and move on to other projects. And there will not be an additional comment period from DNR. So they either accept or reject based on the final. Happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Shannon. Any questions from the board? Comments?
A lot of work. Awesome.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
A lot of research.
Great summary tonight too for compiling where we started, the process, and all the input, where we've ended, all the comments. I appreciated you putting together the summary of edits, suggestions from the DNR. Well done.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments from anyone else? All right, thank you. We will move on then to the next project update. That's a presentation of the proposed wildlife observation deck.
So this project is kind of a brainchild of 5 main project partners. Quicker one. It's a nice picture of that crane. This. Oh, there it goes. Okay, so the project partners include the Indiana Audubon Society, Indiana Dunes National Park, Michigan City Park Department, the Michigan City Public Art Committee, NIPSCO, and the Bike Stop, who our maintenance director, Patrick Bolts, represents. They all sit on the stakeholder committee. The project is to design and construct a wildlife observation deck or platform right off of the Singing Sands Trail overlooking the national park wetlands. This would be another trail amenity for us. It's going to be a prototype wetland structure for the national parks. They'd like to build another dozen of these if this is successful. So I'm really excited about it. Through all the stakeholder input, we came up with this conceptual design. A lot of thought went into, should it be open, should it be covered, should it be shaded? Obviously, you can see it has 2 open decks. What we'd like to use this for is a stop on the Indiana Birding Festival. They do that annually. So this would be a major stop. That festival brings people in from all over the world. That's why they're a partner on this project. Again, National Parks looking at it as prototype. There's another view. So one of the reasons that the Public Art Committee wanted to be a stakeholder is obviously we're looking at expanding public art from the Uptown Arts District out into our community and our neighborhoods, and we thought the trail's a great place to bring visitors in and have some art element is one of the first things they see on their way into Michigan City. So part of that proposal is the Corten steel railing. You can do any type of design. It's kind of a rusted metal. So you can have that laser cut into any design you want. So we're using that as one public art piece. We're also looking at a pretty sizable sculpture that'll be nature themed that would be at the entrance to that pavilion. So we've been taking surveys since January 20th online. Those closed this past Monday. Advance, thank you. So 95% of people that took the survey were in favor of the design that we presented, 4% were not. The reasons that they didn't like it, it's too low to the ground. The reason that we put it low to the ground is to attain ADA accessibility at less cost. So if we were to raise this up above the wetlands, then you're doing transfer decks, which aesthetically are not pleasing and they're very costly. One respondent doesn't like this artistic steel railing. He thinks it takes away from or distracts away from the actual view of the fieldscape, which is a point taken. I mean, the stakeholders are looking at that. Is it maybe too much? Is there like an entry section that could be that design and the rest of it more of a natural buffer? Question 2, what would you change? 52% of the respondents said nothing. Other ideas, address accessibility, which we did. The size, parking's big throughout the surveys. Address the railing, add a sculpture, which we're doing. Benches, which we're doing. Lightning protection, that one was interesting. Which actually lightning rods can also be public art. So that was kind of a fun comment. One person said, don't put any lighting, keep it natural. We would absolutely not put any lighting next to a wetland. Add picnic tables, that's in the plan. Restrooms, again, restrooms come up in every single survey that I put out, whether it's for the master plan or playground or the trails. It's a big thing, but it's expensive with high maintenance costs. But that's something we'll look at. Maybe we can partner with National Park. Signage, there's a plan for interpretive signage and adding a drinking fountain. Is anything missing? Pretty much the same thing. 21% of people said the restrooms, 19 interpretive signage, and 19% wanted parking. So those are kind of the top 3 items. Next slide, please. We also asked what type of animal, plant, bird, or insect would people like to see featured on the railing in the design. 56% of the respondents chose birds, which didn't surprise me for a wetland. 28% preferred the great blue heron, and 17% preferred the white crane. So overwhelmingly, it looks like birds. Quite a few people said, why don't you have a variety? So we might look into that as well. The next question was, how many times a year would you use the deck? I was really surprised that 50% of the people said they'd use it at least 1 to 5 times per year. The next category was 6 to 10 times per year, 24%, and 12 plus at 22%. So that's at least once a month. That was really surprising to me. And take into account, this doesn't even account for the school systems wanting to use this or national parks wanting to use it for programming. So I think it'll have a high use if it gets done. Concerns about the project, parking again. A lot of people, 24%, are very concerned about protecting the habitat during construction, which is definitely a high priority of this project. In addition to doing the project, we'll have to do some mitigation, so we'll actually increase the quality of the wetland through this project by removing invasives and possibly planting more native species in the area. And then 20% of the people were worried about vandalism and security. Next slide. The next steps for this project are to get a property survey. There's some pretty blurred lines in that corner as far as Porter County, LaPorte County, City of Michigan City, National Park, Railroad, NIPSCO, and nobody really knows exactly where these lines are. So it's going to be important that we get a survey right now and figure out whose property are we actually on. After that would follow ownership and maintenance agreement. Is this going to be turned over to the National Park? I'm guessing the majority of the structure itself is going to lie within their boundaries, which makes sense to just turn that over to them for ownership and maintenance. A NIPSCO license agreement will be required for the sidewalk that connects the pavilion to the trail. It's a small section. They've already verbally agreed to pretty much add that onto the agreement we have for the trail. Then we would move into design and engineering and submit for grant funding, and then hopefully go to construction. We have a pretty aggressive timeline, but we'd like to see construction completed by the end of 2023. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
Questions or comments from the board or anyone else?
I'd like to add that I watched you work on this, Shannon, for several months, and I will say that the conceptual design you came up with is very similar to the final design, so I think you did a very good job of that. And also, who chose the location? Because I couldn't think of a better location overlooking the wetlands.
Well, the whole, the stakeholder group chose that location. But initially when we even came up with the idea of the project before there was a stakeholder group, I had met with the National Park System's trail guru when we were just out on a hike for different reasons and came across this amazing view shed. That's an actual photograph from the wetlands. And so we brought some other folks out there and just kind of put our heads together. There's a pretty big opening between on the Singing Sands Trail from 12 to 12. It's really in that triangle. So the location was chosen for, the biggest view shed, and also because it views the wooded wetland in one area and the open in the other. So you have more opportunities to see different types of wildlife.
How big is this whole structure
Yeah.
size wise?
1,300 square feet. So I think it's 24 deep and 56 feet wide. It actually was smaller in the first concept, but we added the outside decks because a lot of birders don't want to be under a covered area, we found out from the Audubon Society.
Mhm.
So we added the 2 wings.
Would a property survey already exist because of the current South Shore Railroad project, possibly?
I have property surveys for the NIPSCO property along Singing Sands,
Mhm.
but National Park is just an iffy line there between NIPSCO and National Park.
Mhm.
To establish ownership and maintenance, I mean, it has to be clear.
Mhm. Sure.
So I think it's worth the price of the survey, but yes, there are some that exist.
How about funding for the project?
I'm sorry,
The funding for the project, the source?
that's the hard part.
Mhm.
Fortunately, this particular project falls in so many pots of money. Education, environmental awareness, access. It's part of the national park, so there's probably a lot of funding sources out there. We just have not identified them yet.
Okay.
And it's a possibility that if there's match required, that it would be from several different entities.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Where would the access be for parking? I'm trying to visualize. I mean, I know where this is, but
So right now, that only parking access is west of Highway 12, the crossing of 12 at the Calumet Trail.
oh. Mhm.
Um, But there's a redesign of the Calumet Trail going on right now, so that may be an extended trailhead that's used for
Yeah.
both trails.
Mhm.
We've also mentioned to NIPSCO that we are interested in possible license agreement for a small parking lot right off of 12, or especially school buses, so the kids aren't crossing the highway.
Oh,
So we're kind of looking at that, but right now, parking's a big issue.
yeah.
Thank you, Shannon. What action should the board take tonight, if any?
This was really just to get your comments and feedback, to make sure you're on board with this conceptually before we actually start funding surveys and design work, which would all come back to you, of course.
Thank you. Before we move on, were we supposed to take any action on the master plan presentation? I see there was a notation for public comment and vote on the agenda.
The resolution 951 is the board action that will allow that to move on.
Very good. Thank you. So unless there are any other questions or comments on the wildlife observation deck, we'll move on. All right, any old business tonight?
No,
Tabled business?
no, sir.
Thank you. All right, right into resolution 951 then, the approval of the Park Department master plan. So I have it in front of me, and this is resolution number 951, a resolution of the Michigan City, Indiana Park and Recreation Board approving the Michigan City Parks and Recreation Department's 2022 to 2026 5-year master plan. Whereas the Michigan City Park and Recreation Department recognizes the need for strategic park and recreation master plan to provide goals, assessments, recommendations, and strategies for implementation over a 5-year period in an effort to provide for and continually improve park and recreational facilities, provide trail opportunities, preserve open spaces, and rehabilitate existing parks in the city of Michigan City. And whereas the primary objective of the plan is to serve Michigan City's residents of all ages, interests, and abilities by providing recreational services desired by the citizens of Michigan City and by preserving natural resources. And whereas in order to process recreational needs in the future of Michigan City has brought input from the citizens of Michigan City through surveys, public input meetings, stakeholder meetings, city officials, and park and recreation staff. And that input has been incorporated into the plan. And whereas the Indiana Department of Natural Resources has reviewed the first draft and recommended some items be clarified or added. And whereas all the items recommended by the Indiana Department of Natural Resources have been incorporated in the final 2022-2026 master plan. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Michigan City Park Board of Michigan City, Indiana, one, the Michigan City Park and Recreation Department's 2022-2026 master plan for the city of Michigan City, Indiana is hereby officially adopted, and two, that an action plan has been developed to prioritize implementation of the master plan and to provide guidance in the application of funding. And three, adoption of this plan shall not commit the city of Michigan City to specific funding levels and or implementation strategies, but shall provide a guidance plan for the city's vision for future park and recreational facilities and services adopted by the Michigan City Park and Recreation Board on the second day of March 2026. So unless there are any objections, edits, or comments to resolution number 951, do we have a motion to approve?
I move we accept resolution 951 as presented.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next is the Michigan City Park Department and Michigan City Zoological Society Memorandum of Understanding.
I'd like to thank Kent Lang, Ed, Jamie Huss, Johnny Stimley. We spent many months hammering out a new MOU. It was difficult at times just because of the lack of resources the zoo has. But I think we finally hammered out a good agreement that everyone is happy with. The Zoo Society has signed that and presented it to this board for approval. If you have any questions, probably any one of the three of us can answer them.
Thank you, Shannon. Any questions or comments? My only comment, it's pretty thorough. It's our last one was not quite as specific, but it's good. It spells out all the details that's needed. And this is an annual renewal, it looks like.
Yes.
Thank you. So unless there are any questions or comments, I have a motion to approve the MOU between the Park Department and the Zoo Society.
I so move that we accept the memorandum of understanding between the Michigan City Zoological Society and the Park Board and of course the zoo itself.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next up is the IDEM sole source vendor letter.
So Indiana purchasing policies, including Michigan City's and below that park departments, we have the ability to purchase from an entity that is the only one that can provide a product or service. So we've been doing sole source vending, purchasing for many, many years, but it's finally risen up to the state level. So they also have to declare if there's only one vendor. In this case, they provide the grant for our water quality testing and notification. And because this board is the only one that has jurisdiction over the beach, they need a sole source vendor letter filed with the state of Indiana.
Very good. Thank you, Shannon.
You're welcome.
And that's what this letter states, is exactly what Shannon just spelled out to us. So unless there are any questions or comments, we have a motion to approve the sole source vendor letter.
I would move that we accept the IDEM sole source vendor letter.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, we have our fourth quarter report, 2021, for the activity. It's been presented to us. We typically table this and then have an opportunity for the public to comment. I think our last meeting or two, we've stopped doing that because the number of comments over the course of 10 years have been zero. So it's just kind of no need. So anyway, it's before us. Any questions or comments on the report?
Just well
I
done
just
again.
comment. Oh, go ahead.
Another report that is just well done and very inclusive.
I found it rather interesting in this that on page 9, says the Washington Park Zoo won 3rd place in an online Indiana tourism contest for the state's top bucket list destinations, which I looked and went, whoa, that is fantastic. 1st place was the Fort Wayne Zoo, 2nd, the Indianapolis Zoo, and 3rd, Washington Park Zoo. Outstanding.
Yeah.
That's great.
Any other questions or comments? Just another report, well done.
Absolutely. Very well done.
We have a motion to approve.
I would move that we approve the fourth quarter report for 2021.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, so right on the heels of that, we have the annual report. The 4 quarters obviously combined into a larger report. Any questions or comments from the board?
I have one clarification, please. After this was printed and sent out to you, I came across on page 36, our revenue from our feeder machines and aviary seat sticks at the zoo. In 2020, the feeder machines made $6,500. In 2021, they made $20,000, which is a huge increase. I did add an explanation that in 2019, mid-season, we started selling ice cream cones filled with seeds. And those are sold out of the little Coop concession stand right by our hoof stock yard. Those cost $1. And the feeder machines only cost $0.25, so it's 4 times as much revenue each time somebody buys one.
Yeah.
And then in 2020, we had no feeder machines because of COVID, so you don't want people touching the machines themselves, so we only sold cones. So I added that explanation of the very large increase.
Good explanation, thank you.
Feeder cones are lucrative, and they're much more fun.
Any other questions or comments? I found some very interesting things in here, and I was happy to see that explanations were added specifically on the profitability of some of these concession items, and I was happy to see it was addressed. Explanations in the report already as to why we did see some of those swings in the profit and loss. In regard to the golf course, we've done 3 years in a row where we've been in the black, which I didn't think we'd see for a long time. Had a lot of reasons for that, but it's all good. Those all go into a non-revert and stay within the golf course fund.
That's correct.
All right. So I know there's some projects that have been requested by the golfers and others out there. I think we should probably just have a plan to address some capital needs out there. Whether there was talk of switching the pro shop around, moving the concession into the larger area where the pro shop is now. And that would provide people better views, more places to sit and enjoy a meal and a beverage after their round. And a little more aesthetically pleasing than that other area that they're in. Another thing we should consider, we were on a systematic, rational cart replacement system. Every year we would replace 20 carts, and I don't think that's been done for the past few years for a number of reasons. But that's another one. Once you get behind on that, it's tough to go buy them all again. You have to go in front of the city council and ask for special appropriation. But
So the cart rotation is in our 2022 capital plan.
great,
We just have not received our capital awards yet this year.
fantastic.
Hopefully it will be awarded.
But there are other needs out there too. I know we took care of the tree trimming. There's some cart paths that need to be addressed.
All of that is in our 5-year action plan that's in the master plan. It's also part of our rolling capital list. I think the cash balance in that account at the end of January was at about $85,000. So it's not a huge balance. And then you have to take into consideration with a non-reverting account, they have to pay expenses out of that until revenue starts coming in. But there's some money there that
So
appropriate.
you say there's 85,000 there. when I see the last 3 years, 19,000, 41,000, 101,000, I would think in a non-revert, in my mind, I would just add those up and think that should be the balance. That's on page 48.
So 19, 20, and 21. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, let me look into that.
Okay, thank you.
About $61,000.
Well, actually, the reasoning for some of that is, again, the expenses are coming out of that cash balance where there's no revenue coming in. But I'll double check to make sure these numbers are correct.
Okay, thank you. But I always keep these reports aside. The quarterly ones can go away, but there's so much good information in here. It's a report that's well done.
Absolutely. I have just one question, Shannon, and I know this has been frustrating for you, but every time I go across the railroad crossing, the Amtrak, I look over at the Singing Sands Trail that has not been completed because the Amtrak is still, I don't know if they're withholding this, but has there been any movement to allow the bicycle trail to cross their tracks?
There has. So we are meeting with Amtrak this coming Friday morning
Amen.
to discuss next steps. It's been a very slow process.
Yes.
They've had a lot of turnover in employees, but we finally have someone in place that's been quite responsive. So I'm hopeful that we put the construction plan out to be completed by the end of this year. That's what we presented to them. So I'll know more after Friday's meeting.
Thank you.
Good
Appreciate
news. Yeah, good news. Any other questions or comments on the annual report? Seeing none, do you have a motion to approve?
I would move
Go ahead,
that,
Phil.
I would move that we accept the Michigan State Park and Recreation 2021 annual report.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next is the job description for the Park and Rec Youth League Director.
Yes, thank you. I found a need for a job description to instruct the directors of the Youth League organization and their age divisions. I simply found on the Community Drive a job description that was for Adult League Director, made a few revisions, and our attorney, Ms. Nurnberg, approved it, reviewed and approved it. So before you is that job description.
Very good. Thank you, Ed. Any questions or comments?
I'm sorry, I guess Ms. Nurnberg did not review and approve this one. So if she's glad to do so, if we need to table this for her approval, I'm fine with that.
Okay, that doesn't jeopardize your program at all if we wait 2 weeks?
It does not.
All right, great. I would entertain a motion to table then.
I move we table the job description for Youth League Director.
I'll second it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, next is the revision to policy number 212, attendance and punctuality.
I do not have that revision before me, but I can.
I have it.
Okay.
It's a simple revision to our existing attendance and punctuality policy. And what we've run into is we've had several times where employees have requested to take unpaid days off and not use their sick and vacation. And then, so they're out of the workforce, which disrupts the workforce, but they're also then accruing all these days that they can take a month off in December. That's not the point of the benefit days, and we no longer have a furlough policy. So just to clarify our attendance policy, we've added the sentence, salaried and hourly employees who are going to miss a scheduled work shift must use their accrued benefit leave time, sick, vacation, or comp time. One sentence clarifies it for everyone. It kind of gets rid of that problem.
Very good. Thank you for that explanation. Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments from anyone else, the public? Do we have a motion to approve?
I so move that we approve the attendance and punctuality. This is part of the policy and procedure manual.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We have another item that wasn't on our agenda on the packet that was mailed to us, and this is the notice to proceed. And this is in regard to the Big Cat project. Seems to be Holiday Construction seems to be very responsive and getting all their items lined up and ready to go, which is a great sign.
Yeah, it is.
So what this is a notice to proceed. Please consider this letter as your notice to proceed with the work described in your agreement between the owner and contractor construction contract dated February 16th, 2022 for the Zoo Big Cat expansion project located at 115 Lakeshore Drive, Michigan City, Indiana. We look forward to a successful and harmonious relationship. And everything has been pointed out we get these timeline and schedules of making sure that all the documentation is complete and the compliance is complete. And it appears that it is, and that's why it's being recommended to proceed. Any questions or comments? Have a motion to approve the notice to proceed?
I so move that we approve the notice to proceed for the feline exhibit.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. That is really moving at a quick speed, which is great. All right, Ed, Superintendent's report.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This evening, I would like to report on park maintenance, youth baseball, golf, senior center, and the zoo. Park maintenance. Within the last 2 weeks, the mowers I mentioned that they were working on are completed. The sharpening of the blades and the filters and oil changes. Working on other equipment now begins, gators and etc. Of course, cleaning up of sand, removal of sand in the parking lots has taken place. The cleaning up of 2 fallen trees from storms, cleaning up leaves, another couple of days of plowing and salting in the last 2 weeks, completing of the picnic table repair and building of, and completely gutting the supply room and tool room to reorganize and clean. So the park maintenance crew has been very busy after all the snow plowing and found time to work indoors as well. Youth baseball. Our youth baseball total sign-up count is 101, and last year at this time was 94. So we're excited about increase in the sign-ups in baseball. The sponsors, we have 4 so far. They'll start coming in, I'm sure, a little bit more in the future, and that is the same as last year. We are advertising on all electronic media. Announcements at the Michigan City area schools will start tomorrow and will be made on their intercom system to alert the kids and spark their interest to sign up for baseball this season. Golf. I reached out to our clubhouse professional, Mr. Magnuson, and he has been lately locking down start dates for leagues and coordinating exact dates for annual outings. I also contacted our golf pro shop manager, Jared Christensen, and he will begin his position working in the clubhouse next Monday. And together we will walk through the facility and take note of the steps that Mr. Christensen will take to complete in order to have the clubhouse ready for opening day in mid-March. The golf mechanics and maintenance at the golf course our director, John Marshall, and assistant director of golf, Paul McDonnell, attended their advanced turf educational seminar within the last 2 weeks. They did well, and they are now certified in applications of pesticides. And along with that, our ace mechanic, Michael Moore, in the last 2 weeks, has serviced 4 zoo golf carts, completed the repair of the zoo carry-all cart, and this cart has been in the boneyard for several years, so they brought that back to life. They serviced a zoo gator and repaired the snowplow and the lights on a parked truck. Golf course equipment repairs come to 2 Toro fairway mowers that they completely disassembled. I've seen them do this. It's quite a project. And they ground 10 fairway cutting units. Currently, the staff is installing transmission seals and wheel cylinders to their Cushman utility vehicle. I know that sounds very mechanical, but I just want to mention how hard these fellows work during the off-season to get it prepared for opening day. The senior center is running steady, running like a Swiss watch. There's not a lot to report there. Everything's going well at the senior center. The zoo had some fence repair that's needed, has some fence repair from a tree that has fallen. And they would like me to mention that they're still looking for seasonals. We're advertising on all the electronic media and on the zoo website. Actually, seasonals are needed in the concession stand at the zoo. Parking department needs them at Washington Park. We need seasonals in park maintenance. The zoo needs a dietitian and a seasonal groundskeeper at the zoo. We're also looking for lifeguards and City Kids Day Camp leaders. So all these are posted and applications are available at City Hall. Thank you. That's my report for this evening.
Thank you, Ed. Any questions or comments?
It's just a question. Shannon, they being anybody looking for a job, I got a couple phone calls today. Do you refer them to go to our website? Is that where they go?
They need to fill out an application at the personnel office.
Oh, it's personnel.
City Hall now.
Okay.
There's also applications outside on the south side of City Hall. There's a box, you can pick up an application, fill it out, leave it in the mailbox at City Hall's closed.
Thank you.
Shannon, I'm just curious, once the season begins, how many seasonal employees does Park Board usually?
If we hire full capacity, 65 to 70.
Wow, okay.
However, the last 3 years, we've been 30 across all operations. When I started in 1995, we had 120 plus. So
Yeah,
things have changed over the years.
well, hopefully with the COVID thing improving now, so,
Yeah, and I think the council approved raises, thank you, Brian Dabney, are going to be very instrumental in getting seasonals on board this year. There was a lot of competition out there last year, and we just didn't offer to pay. So I think this year's gonna definitely look up for change.
If given a chance or talking to the administration, I would recommend putting those applications online if possible. As difficult as it is to hire people, having to have someone come down and get a paper application is just another barrier that other employers, you don't have to jump that hurdle.
So they are online,
They are, okay.
yes. On the city's website, under personnel, they are not fillable online. Is that something we can do?
You can just print it. Just do it. Tonight.
So maybe that's
Yeah.
something we'll work on.
I
So
would strongly encourage that, just to eliminate a hurdle that we don't have or would have, but other employers don't.
Everything should be done on time.
Any other questions or comments? All right, any vandalism to report?
No vandalism has been reported to me.
Great, thank you. The liaison reports, on the Plan Commission liaison report, we did have a meeting, but there was nothing pertaining to the park department. Port Authority, Mr. Freeze.
Yes, we had a meeting also and nothing to report.
Thank you. And the Zoological Society, Mr. White.
the Zoological Society will meet next Tuesday, the 8th, so I will have a report the next time we meet.
Thank you. Ms. Newberg, Attorney's report?
No.
Thank you. Any director's reports tonight?
no, sir.
All right, then it's showtime, Mr. Lynn.
All right, Michigan City Park Department claims docket for March the 2nd, 2022. Municipal, $35,516.65. Golf petty cash, none at this time. Zoo endowment, none at this time. Bringing total claims for March the 2nd, 2022, $35,516.65. I so move that we approve the claims docket for March the 2nd, 2022.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Payroll number 3, 2022, with the pay date of February the 11th, 2022. Total payroll, $53,041.25. I so move that we approve payroll number 3 for 2022.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under gifts and donations, from Francis Howard, a zoo donation in memory of Tim Bennett, $100. From Applegate and Company, a zoo donation in memory of Tim Bennett, $25. From the Michigan City Zoological Society, a zoo donation in the memory of Tim Bennett, $100. From the Michigan City Zoological Society, a zoo donation artwork, $1,322.05. From the Michigan City Zoological Society, a zoo donation, parakeet house renovation, $37,500. From Frontier Lawn and Recreation, a donation for youth baseball team sponsorship, $350. From R&B 421 Incorporated, it's another way of saying Arby's, a donation for youth baseball team sponsorship of $350. From Penelope Russell, a zoo donation in memory of Tim Bennett of $50. From Castle Ford Lincoln, a donation for youth baseball league for 2 teams, $700. From NJ Cypress, a zoo donation in memory of Norma Wybrew of $50. From Julie Rhoda, a zoo donation in memory of Norma Wybrew of $50. I so move that we accept these gifts and donations.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Under minor transfers, there are none at this time. Zoo endowment, none at this time. Board of Works, none at this time. Credit card charges, none at this time. And that ends the financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Lang.
You are welcome.
Any questions or comments from the public tonight? Questions or comments from the board?
It's just good to hear about how fast the big cat exhibit is moving along. It's awesome news.
Good. Any other questions or comments? Well, our next meeting is March 16th at 5 p.m. right here. We have a motion to adjourn.
So move.